Millionaire humiliated in negotiation. But the maid gets revenge with an incredible skill. William Robert Thompson felt his hands tremble as he tried to maintain his composure in front of the three executives who were openly laughing at his confusion. The negotiation that was supposed to save his 30-year-old company had turned into the most humiliating moment of his life. Look at this, folks. The old man can't even understand Mandarin and wants to do business with China, mocked Tyler Wilson, the youngest of the executives, making the other two laugh even louder. William swallowed his wounded pride. At 65, he had built an empire in the coffee export business, but the economic crisis and international competition were choking his company. This meeting in the penthouse of New York City's most luxurious building represented his last chance to secure a $5 million contract with Chinese importers. "Dad, maybe we should just take whatever they offer," whispered Jennifer, his 35-year-old daughter, a Columbia University-educated lawyer. She sat beside him, visibly embarrassed by the situation. From the corner of the room, Sophia Chen silently served coffee. The 25-year-old had worked as a maid in the Thompson family mansion for just 6 months. Her dark eyes observed every detail of the negotiation, especially the documents scattered across the glass table. "Mr. Thompson," said Richard Tang, the leader of the Chinese executives, in heavily accented English, "the contract is very clear. These are standard export terms." William looked at the papers filled with Chinese characters. He had hired a translator, but the man cancelled at the last minute, citing family issues. The American executives had insisted they could translate everything perfectly. "It's simple, Mr. Thompson," said Michael Brown, the second executive, slapping his hands on the table. "You deliver the coffee, they pay. Basic as that." "But I'd like to understand every clause," William insisted, running a hand through his graying hair. The three American executives exchanged impatient glances. Daniel Miller, the third man, rolled his eyes. "Mr. Thompson, with all due respect, you're being overly suspicious. They're serious partners." Sophia continued serving coffee, but her ears caught every word. What no one knew was that she had grown up in New York City's Chinatown, raised by a Chinese family who had informally adopted her when she was just 8. She spoke fluent Mandarin, Cantonese, and other dialects. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us newcomers grow. Now back to the story. As she approached the table to collect the empty cups, Sophia managed to glance at the documents. Her blood ran cold. The traditional characters revealed something completely different from what was being explained. This wasn't a simple export contract. It was a full transfer of the company, including all the family's properties. "So, Mr. Thompson," Tyler pressed, "shall we sign now? Our time is valuable." The psychological pressure was working. William felt diminished, like an outdated old man who couldn't keep up with modern business. He had started the company with his own hands, hauling sacks of coffee, and now he felt lost in this world of complex international contracts. "Dad, I can try to read it," Jennifer offered, reaching for the papers. "No need to worry, counselor," Michael interrupted, pulling the documents toward himself. "This is import stuff. Legal isn't our area, right?" Jennifer felt insulted but didn't want to escalate the tension. Still, she noticed how nervous the executives seemed whenever someone tried to get close to the contracts. Sophia needed to act quickly. Pretending to trip, she spilled coffee over part of the documents. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she exclaimed, rushing to grab cleaning cloths. "How clumsy of me." "Careful, girl," Daniel shouted nervously. "Those papers are important." As she wiped up the coffee, Sophia quickly whispered to William Robert, "Sir, there's something very wrong with this translation. Don't sign anything." William Robert looked at her, surprised. The young employee had always been so discreet and polite. Why would she risk her job to warn him? "What do you mean?" he murmured. "I'll explain later. Ask to read everything carefully, make up any excuse," Sophia said, still pretending to clean. "Hey, what's the problem here?" Tyler stood up impatiently. "It's just spilled coffee." "You know I prefer to review everything thoroughly," William Robert said, buying time. "Can I take the documents home tonight?" "Impossible," Richard Tang exclaimed. "We have a flight scheduled for tomorrow morning. It's now or never." The pressure mounted. The executives began talking about how other companies were interested in the same contract, how William Robert was missing the opportunity of a lifetime. "Mr. Thompson," Michael said, his tone turning threatening, "the market already knows your company is struggling. If this deal leaks and falls through, your reputation will be worse than ever." Jennifer noticed the shift in tone and grew suspicious. As a lawyer, she was used to spotting undue pressure in negotiations. "Dad, you have the right to read everything before signing," she said firmly. "Doctor, you don't understand international trade," Daniel retorted. "This isn't civil law." Sophia felt the tension rising. She needed to find a way to reveal what she'd discovered without exposing her ability to read Mandarin. She still didn't fully trust the Thompson family. She'd learned to be cautious after bad experiences in the past. During a bathroom break, Sophia managed to photograph a few pages of the contract with her old phone. It wasn't just an ordinary phone. She'd modified some functions to record conversations, a precaution she'd learned to take after being cheated in previous jobs. When she returned, she heard Richard Tang speaking in Mandarin on the phone. His words made Sophia's blood boil. "Yes, the old man is falling right into the trap. By tomorrow, the whole company will be ours. He's too proud to admit he doesn't understand a word of Chinese." Sophia kept her composure, but painful memories of her past resurfaced. She'd trusted people before and been betrayed. She remembered working as a freelance translator and being cheated by a client who refused to pay for months of work. She remembered trying to help a Chinese family with documents, only to be accused of theft when something went wrong. But this time was different. William Robert had always treated her with respect. When she arrived at the house, depressed and distrustful of everyone, he never asked invasive questions about her past. He paid on time, offered help when she was sick, and even let her bring her mother for Sunday lunches. "Mr. Tang," William Robert said, returning to the table, "may I ask my daughter to take a quick look? She's a lawyer." Of course," Richard replied, though his eyes flashed with irritation. "But we don't have much time." Jennifer took the documents and tried to decipher something. Even without understanding Mandarin, she noticed inconsistencies in the formatting and how the numbers were arranged. "Dad, some of these figures don't match what they explained," she said, pointing to a section. "Oh, those are customs fees," Michael quickly explained. "Technical details." Sophia knew it was a lie. Those numbers referred to the properties that would be transferred. She couldn't stay silent any longer. "Excuse me," she said, pretending to feel unwell. "May I step out for some air?" "Of course," said William Robert, concerned. "Are you okay?" "Just a little lightheaded," Sophia lied as she left the room. She needed a plan. She couldn't simply reveal that she spoke Mandarin. That would raise too many questions about her past that she wasn't ready to answer. But she also couldn't stand by and watch William Robert be deceived. In the hallway, Sophia called her home phone and left a message in Mandarin, recording her own voice translating the most important parts of the contract. Then she returned to the room. "Mr. Thompson," she said when she found an opportunity, "could I borrow your phone? Mine is dead, and I need to call my mother." "Of course, Sophia." He handed her the phone. Sophia quickly sent the audio from her phone to his, then deleted the call history. "Here, thank you," she returned the phone. A few minutes later, William Robert's phone rang. "Hello?" he answered. "No one's there." "Probably a prank," said Tyler, impatient. "Shall we get back to business?" "Wait, there's a voicemail." William Robert activated the speakerphone without thinking. Sophia's voice in fluent Mandarin echoed through the room, translating the actual clauses of the contract. She had recorded everything in Chinese so Richard Tang would understand that someone had uncovered the scam. The silence that followed was deafening. Richard Tang turned pale. The three American executives exchanged nervous glances. "Who is this woman?" Richard asked in Chinese, forgetting where he was. "You just spoke in Chinese," Jennifer noted suspiciously. "I thought you only spoke English." I, Richard stammered. William Robert looked at Sophia, who stood quietly in the corner with her eyes downcast. "Sophia, do you understand Chinese?" She took a deep breath. There was no hiding it now. "Yes, sir. And they're trying to steal everything from you." The bomb had dropped. Dear listener, If you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us newcomers. Now, continuing. "This is ridiculous," Michael shouted, standing up. "You're going to believe a maid?" "A maid who speaks Mandarin better than you can translate," Jennifer shot back, finally grasping the situation. Richard Tang tried to keep his composure, but his voice trembled. "There must be some misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding," Sophia said, speaking firmly for the first time. "The contract states that Mr. Thompson is transferring not just the company but also his home, his cars, his bank accounts, everything." "You're insane," Daniel protested. "How would a maid know how to read international contracts?" Sophia took a deep breath. It was time to reveal at least part of the truth. "Because I'm not just a maid. I have a degree in literature and linguistics with a specialization in Eastern languages from Columbia University. I worked 5 years as an official translator before some things went wrong in my life." William Robert looked at her with new eyes. The quiet young woman who had been cleaning his home for 6 months was actually a qualified professional. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" he asked. "Because," Sophia hesitated, "because I've learned it's better if people don't know too much about me. But I couldn't stay silent and watch you be robbed." Richard Tang whispered something in Mandarin to one of his colleagues, but Sophia interrupted. "He's telling them to burn the documents and pretend nothing happened," she translated aloud. "Lies!" Richard shouted. "Want me to repeat exactly what you said?" Sophia challenged in perfect Mandarin. The man fell silent. Jennifer had been recording everything on her phone since the situation unfolded. "Dad, this is attempted fraud. We can sue all of them." "Hold on," said Tyler, panicking. "We didn't know anything." "The Chinese were the ones who brought the contract ready-made." "Liar," said Sophia. "I heard you talking at the start of the meeting about how to split the commission after the scam worked." Michael turned red with anger. "You liar! When would you have heard that? When you arrived and thought I was just a dumb maid who wouldn't understand anything. You talked in the hallway, assuming I only knew how to clean floors." The revelation hit the 3 men like a punch. They had indeed discussed the scheme, confident the maid posed no threat. William Robert felt a mix of anger and gratitude. Anger at nearly being deceived, gratitude that Sophia had risked everything to protect him. "And now?" he asked. "Now we're leaving," said Richard Tang, trying to gather the papers. "Obviously business isn't happening." "Not so fast," Jennifer interrupted. "Attempted fraud is a crime. I need to call the police." "No," Sophia exclaimed, surprising everyone. "Please don't call the police." They all stared at her, confused. Why didn't she want the criminals arrested? "Sophia, they tried to steal everything from my dad," Jennifer said. "I know, but..." Sophia looked at the floor. "I have problems with the police. I can't explain now, but please find another way." William Robert realized there was far more to Sophia's past than she was willing to share, but she had saved his company, his home, his life. If she didn't want police involvement, he'd respect that. "Fine," he said, "but I want you all far away from here. And if I find out you tried this with anyone else, then I'll report everything to the authorities." The 4 men left quickly, but Richard Tang stopped at the door. "You don't know who you're messing with, girl." "And you don't know who I really am," Sophia replied, meeting his gaze without fear. When they were alone, William Robert, Jennifer, and Sophia sat in silence for a moment. "Sophia," William Robert finally said, "you saved everything I've built over 30 years. How can I thank you?" "You already have," she replied. "You gave me work when I needed it, treated me with respect, never asked prying questions. That's worth more than money." "But you're educated, you have qualifications," Jennifer said. "Why are you working as a maid?" Sophia sighed. It was a long, painful story. "A few years ago, I worked as an official translator. I had a small office, but it was growing. Then one day I took a job that seemed normal, translating documents for an import company." She paused, the memories still painful. "Turns out they were using my translations for illegal schemes. When the police found out, I became a suspect too. Even after proving my innocence, my reputation was ruined. No one wanted to hire me as a translator anymore." "How unfair," Jennifer murmured. "That's when I started working as a maid. It was the only way to support myself, without people asking about my professional past." William Robert's heart ached. Sophia had lost her career helping the wrong people, and now she'd risked her current job to help him. "Sophia, I have a proposal for you," he said. "My company needs someone to handle international contracts, especially after today. Would you work with me as a translation consultant?" Sophia looked at him, surprised. "Mr. Thompson, that's very generous, but it's not generosity," Jennifer cut in. "It's smart. You just proved you have a skill that can save entire businesses. But what if people find out about my past?" "What past?" said William Robert. "The past of someone who was too honest for her own good? That's not a flaw, Sophia, it's a strength." Sophia felt her eyes well up. It had been so long since someone believed in her. "I need to think," she said. "Of course," replied William Robert. "But while you think, how about we keep being a family? Only now you'll join us at the dinner table instead of serving it." 3 days later, Sophia made her decision. She accepted the offer to work at Thompson & Chen as an international consultant. Her first project was reviewing all the company's existing contracts. What she found was shocking. At least 3 other agreements contained questionable clauses that could have cost the company millions. Some contracts had been translated by the same executives who tried to pull the scam. "My God," said William Robert when Sophia presented the report. "They've been stealing from us for years." "Not just you," said Sophia. "I managed to trace similar contracts. At least 15 other companies were victims of the same scheme." Jennifer looked over the documents. "This is much bigger than we thought. We need to warn the other businesses." "I agree," said Sophia, "but we have to be careful. If they find out we're investigating, they might destroy evidence." William Robert admired how Sophia had transformed. The timid maid had given way to a confident, strategic professional. "What's the plan?" he asked. "We'll need legal help," said Sophia, "and maybe journalistic support. This story needs to go public to protect other companies." Over the following weeks, Sophia worked tirelessly to document the scheme. She discovered that Tyler, Michael, and Daniel had set up a shell company to broker international deals with the sole purpose of running scams. Richard Tang, in turn, wasn't actually a Chinese importer. He was an American of Chinese descent, posing as a foreigner to lend credibility to the fraud. "It's very elaborate," said Jennifer, impressed by Sophia's investigation. "How did they fool so many people?" "Because they exploited 2 human weaknesses," Sophia explained. "Greed and the fear of looking ignorant. The victims were too afraid to admit they didn't understand the contracts." The investigation revealed another disturbing detail. Sophia wasn't the first translator they'd tried to silence. At least 3 other professionals had been threatened or smeared when they uncovered irregularities. "They ruined my career on purpose," Sophia realized. "It wasn't bad luck. It was because I was getting too close to uncovering their scheme." This revelation changed everything. Sophia wasn't a victim of circumstance. She was a survivor of organized persecution. "Now I understand why you were afraid of the police," said William Robert. "They probably influenced the investigation to make you look guilty." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. With this new perspective, Sophia and the Thompson family devised an even more ambitious plan. It wasn't just about exposing the current scam, it was about clearing Sophia's name and those of other victims. The first step was contacting a trusted investigative journalist. Jonathan Harris Wright, a reporter for New York City's largest newspaper, was fascinated by the story. "This is more than just fraud," he said during their first meeting. "It's a sophisticated criminal organization that's been operating for years." "Exactly," Sophia confirmed. "And I have proof of at least 20 companies that were harmed." The journalist examined all the documentation Sophia had compiled. "You've done better work than many professional investigators," he praised. "But we'll need more evidence for a story of this magnitude." That's when Sophia revealed her final trump card. She had kept recordings of all the suspicious conversations she'd witnessed over the years, even when working other jobs. "I always knew this would be useful someday," she said, holding up a flash drive. "I have incriminating conversations from at least 10 people involved in the scheme." The recordings were devastating. They revealed not just the scams, but also how they manipulated police investigations, bought victims' silence, and even infiltrated people into target companies. "My God," murmured Jennifer, listening to one of the recordings. "They placed a secretary in their competitor's company to steal information." "It's far more organized than we thought," agreed William Robert. As they prepared to expose the scheme publicly, something unexpected happened. Richard Tang approached Sophia. "We need to talk," he said, intercepting her outside Thompson and Chen. "We have nothing to discuss," Sophia replied, trying to walk past him. "I know who you really are," he said, stopping her in her tracks, "and I know why you've been hiding all these years." Sophia felt her blood run cold. What else did this man know about her past? "You know nothing about me." "I know your name isn't Sophia Chen," Richard said with a cruel smile. "I know you changed it after the investigation 5 years ago, and I know your brother is in pre-trial detention for a crime he didn't commit." Sophia's world crumbled. Her younger brother, David, had been wrongfully arrested around the same time her career was destroyed. She'd always suspected the two events were connected, but could never prove it. "What do you want?" she asked, trembling. "I want you to disappear," Richard said. "Drop this ridiculous investigation, leave New York City, and never show your face again. Do that, and I can guarantee your brother will be released next week. And if I don't, then he'll be transferred to a maximum security prison where inmates like him don't last long." Sophia felt sick. It was the same blackmail that had forced her into domestic work. They'd always known where she was, always had this card up their sleeve. "You have 24 hours to decide," Richard said before walking away. Sophia returned home in shock. How could she choose between saving her brother and seeking justice for so many other victims? That night, she couldn't sleep. She stared at a photo of David she kept in her wallet. He'd been just an engineering student when he was arrested. Now, 5 years later, he was traumatized and addicted to antidepressants. The next morning, Sophia arrived at Thompson and Chen with deep circles under her eyes. "Are you okay?" William Robert asked, concerned. "I need to talk to you both," she said, her voice shaky. Sophia told them everything. Her real name, her brother, the blackmail. By the end, tears filled her eyes. "I'll understand if you want me to leave," she said. "I've put you in danger." William Robert and Jennifer exchanged glances. Then, Jennifer stood and hugged Sophia. "You're not going anywhere," she said firmly. "We'll handle this together." "But my brother, he'll be freed," William Robert said. "But the right way, not through blackmail." "How?" "Jennifer is an excellent lawyer," he said, smiling at his daughter. "And I know some influential people in the judicial system. We'll review your brother's case legally." "But that could take months, years," Sophia protested. "Maybe not," Jennifer said. "If we can prove his arrest was part of this scheme to blackmail you, I can get a habeas corpus in weeks." Sophia could hardly believe it. Finally, someone was fighting for her instead of against her. "But what about Tyler's threat?" "We'll give him exactly what he deserves," said William Robert. "Full exposure in the press. Once this story goes public, he won't be able to threaten anyone again." In the days that followed, everyone worked feverishly. Jennifer prepared the legal motions to free David, while Sophia and the journalist finalized their investigation. But Richard Tang wasn't waiting passively. 3 days before the story was set to publish, he made one last desperate move. Sophia was leaving the company when 2 men approached her. "You're coming with us," one said, flashing a concealed weapon. For a moment, Sophia thought it was the end. But then she remembered something she'd learned in her difficult childhood at the orphanage. Always have an escape plan. "All right," she said calmly. "But first, can I call my mother? She worries if she doesn't know where I am." The men hesitated. It seemed like an innocent request. "Make it quick," one snapped. Sophia took out her phone and dialed a number, but not her mother's. It was the emergency number she'd arranged with William Robert and Jennifer. "Hi, Mom," she said, discreetly activating the speakerphone. "I'm outside the company, but some men are taking me to talk to Richard Tang at the warehouse on Maple Street, number 450. If I don't call in an hour, call the police." The kidnappers realized the ruse too late. Sophia had given away their exact location. At the warehouse, Richard Tang waited with a final offer. "Last chance, Sophia, or should I say, Li Wei," he said, using her real name. "You walk away from all of this or your entire family suffers the consequences." "What family?" Sophia shot back. "My parents are lost. My brother's been wrongfully imprisoned. You've already destroyed everything I had." "There's still your adoptive mother," Richard said, showing photos of an elderly Chinese woman, Mrs. Zhang, who raised you in Chinatown. It'd be a shame if something happened to her. Sophia felt a rage like never before. Mrs. Zhang was the only mother figure she'd ever known, the woman who'd taught her Mandarin and given her love when she needed it most. "You won't lay a finger on her," Sophia said, her voice controlled but burning. "Then take my deal." Just then the warehouse doors burst open. William Robert, Jennifer, and journalist Jonathan Harris Wright entered with police officers. "Conversation's over, Richard," William Robert said. Richard Tang looked around, desperate. He was surrounded, and every threat had been recorded on Sophia's phone. "You have no proof of anything," he bluffed. "We have 5 years of recordings, forged documents, fraudulent contracts, and now kidnapping and threats," Jennifer said. "That's more than enough." As Richard and his accomplices were arrested, Sophia finally let herself cry, not from fear or sadness, but relief. 5 years of terror were over. 2 weeks later, the story ran under the headline, "$1 Million Fraud Scheme Exposed by Polyglot Housemaid." The fallout was huge. David was freed 3 days after publication when the irregularities in his case came to light. Sophia waited outside the prison when he walked out. "Sis," he said, rushing to hug her. "I knew you wouldn't give up on me." "Never," she answered, tears of happiness streaming down her face. But the story had one final twist. At Richard Tang's trial, it was revealed he wasn't just an ordinary con man. He was the son of a prominent Chinese businessman who used the scheme to eliminate American competitors in the export market. "The operation had both political and economic motivations," explained the prosecutor. "They were systematically destroying American businesses to make way for Chinese corporations in the market." William Robert Thompson was shocked to realize he had been targeted not just for his vulnerability, but because he posed a real threat to Richard Tang's plans. "Your company is one of the largest independent coffee exporters," said Sophia. "They needed to eliminate it to clear the path for their own ventures." With Richard Tang and his accomplices convicted, Sophia could finally rebuild her life. William offered her a partnership in the company. "It's not just because you saved us," he explained. "It's because you have the strategic vision to take our business to the next level." Sophia accepted, but on one condition: part of the profits would go to a fund to help other victims of commercial fraud. "I don't want anyone else to go through what I did," she said. The firm Thompson & Chen, Sophia had reclaimed her real surname, Chen, which had been adapted to Santos in Portuguese, became one of the most respected in the industry, known for both quality and ethics. Sophia created a specialized department to detect commercial fraud, offering free services to small businesses that couldn't afford consulting. "It's ironic," said Jennifer, now Sophia's partner in a law firm specializing in financial crimes. "They tried to destroy you to cover up their crimes, but they ended up creating the most qualified person to fight them." David graduated with a degree in engineering and joined the family business, developing security systems to protect digital documents from fraud. Mrs. Zhang, Sophia's adoptive mother, became a beloved figure in the company, teaching Mandarin to employees interested in international business. "I always knew my Li Wei was special," she said proudly. But the deepest transformation happened in William. The man who had nearly lost everything due to pride learned to value people regardless of their social standing. "Sophia taught me that intelligence and loyalty have nothing to do with degrees or salaries," he said in an interview for the business magazine that named his company the most ethical of the year. 2 years after the scheme was exposed, Sophia was invited to speak at a conference on international business security. "I've learned that our greatest protection against fraud isn't sophisticated systems or complex contracts," she told the audience of entrepreneurs. "It's the humility to admit when we don't understand something and the wisdom to trust the right people." In the crowd, William smiled proudly. The timid employee he had once hired had become one of the country's most respected consultants. After the lecture, a young businessman approached Sophia. "Mrs. Chen, I'm facing problems similar to what you went through. Could you help me?" Sophia looked at him with understanding. It was the same desperation she had seen on William's face years ago. "Of course," she said, smiling. "That's why I'm here." Life had taught her that the worst moments could become the greatest opportunities if we have the courage to make the right choice at the right time. And as she helped yet another victim of commercial fraud, Sophia reflected on how a simple decision to accidentally spill coffee had changed not just her life, but so many others. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is simply doing what's right, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. In the end, William Robert Thompson hadn't just kept his company. He had gained an extended family and discovered that true wealth lies in the people we choose to have by our side. And Sophia? She had finally found a place where she could use her talents to protect rather than just survive. The maid had saved the millionaire. But in the process, he had saved her too. The end of the story. Now tell us what you thought of this incredible story of perseverance and justice. Do you believe Sophia made the right decisions? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories like this one.